Chapter 1. The Devil's Deal. Cairo Wynn adjusted the cuff of his tailored suit as the wrought iron gates of the Voss estate creaked open. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made your skin prickle. The car door shut behind him with a final thud, and the mansion ahead loomed like a predator. Black stone, razor-edged architecture, and cold lights. Everything about the estate screamed danger and dominance. Just like the man who owned it. Damien Voss. The name alone made rival CEOs flinch and governments tread carefully. A mafia alpha who rose from ashes with a reputation soaked in blood and whispered nightmares. Cairo had only seen him once before, from across the funeral aisle. His father's funeral. A memory that still tasted like ash. A Wynn never bows to a Voss, his father had told him, not even if it kills you. But today, Cairo was the exception. He stepped inside, guided silently by a butler who didn't dare speak. The grand room was dimly lit, perfumed with cedar, expensive cologne, and power. And there Damien sat, legs crossed casually on a throne-like chair, as if he'd been waiting for Cairo all along. Jet black hair, dark silk shirt unbuttoned at the collar, and those eyes, obsidian, burning with something feral. A cruel smile pulled at Damien's lips the moment their eyes met. "Cairo Wynn," he said, voice smooth like poison. "I almost thought you'd make me wait another year. How thoughtful, showing up when your empire is on its knees." Cairo didn't flinch. "I didn't come to exchange insults, Voss." Damien's smile deepened. "No, you came to beg." And he was right. Wintech was collapsing. A series of calculated attacks, anonymous blackmail, sabotage deals, digital leaks, all traced back to one invisible hand. Damien's. A thick folder slid across the marble table toward him. A contract, cold, binding. The terms were simple, brutal. 1 year of a fake marriage. Public appearances, intimate displays of loyalty. No lovers, no scandals. In exchange, Damien would erase all blackmail, restore Wintech's reputation, and more importantly, spare the lives of Cairo's employees. "You want to play house with your enemy?" Cairo asked bitterly. "No," Damien said softly. "I want you to be mine, even if it's fake." It was humiliation dressed in luxury. A cage with golden bars. But Cairo had no choice. He signed. By the next day, their fake marriage was the talk of every tabloid. The power merger of the century, some called it. Photo shoots, press releases, headlines that painted them as the ultimate alpha power couple. Behind the scenes, Cairo was a prisoner. Not behind locked doors, but bound by threats, pride, and something darker he couldn't yet name. The blood feud between the Wynns and the Vosses had started decades ago. His father had tried to annihilate the Voss bloodline, ordering an assassination that ended in failure, and Damien's father's brutal execution. Damien didn't forget. And now, instead of killing Cairo, he chose something more insidious. Possession. "You want revenge," Cairo accused one night. "You want to humiliate me, make me yours so publicly I can't fight back." Damien's response was cold and deliberate. "Your father tried to end my family. I'm ending yours in a different way, slowly, intimately." But it wasn't just about domination. Damien watched him too closely, touched him too gently sometimes. He wanted more than a business deal. And one night, he took it. It started with dinner. Simple, intimate. Damien cooked himself, another red flag. Cairo ignored out of exhaustion. The wine tasted sharp, metallic. His head felt light, then warm. Too warm. Heat bloomed in his blood, a strange fire spreading through his limbs. Cairo stumbled, breath caught in his throat. His alpha instincts screamed something was wrong, but his body betrayed him. "What did you do to me?" he rasped, gripping the edge of the table for support. "Relax," Damien said, catching him. "Stop fighting it. Let your body remember what it was always meant for." Cairo tried to resist, but the drug had twisted his senses. Every brush of Damien's fingers made his skin burn. His heat was unnaturally strong, wrong, impossible for an alpha. But it consumed him, making him ache in places that should never feel that way. Not with another alpha. Damien kissed him, not brutally but deeply, as if he had been starving for this moment. Cairo's thoughts were drowning in confusion, humiliation, and undeniable desire. "You smell like something ancient," Damien murmured against his lips. "Not just alpha, something more." Then, with one sharp bite, Damien marked him. Pain exploded in Cairo's neck, white-hot and primal. A mark not just physical but mystical, soul-deep, a bond. It should have been impossible, but it happened. The bond forged in heat and madness locked Cairo to Damien in ways even he couldn't understand. He screamed as it overwhelmed him. His vision darkened. The last thing he heard was Damien's voice, gentle, triumphant. "I told you, Cairo. You were made for me." He woke up hours later in silk sheets, the morning light slanting across a room that was too unfamiliar and far too warm. His body ached. His neck throbbed, but worse. Something inside him pulsed. A foreign heat, a life. Cairo stumbled to the mirror. His breath caught in his throat. The mark was there, faintly glowing. Bonded. "What? What did you do to me?" he whispered in horror. From the shadows, Damien's voice answered, calm and deadly. "I gave you what you were always meant to have." Chapter 2. The Unthinkable. 2 months later, Cairo Wynn collapsed in the middle of a board meeting. One moment, he was presenting quarterly numbers to a room full of power-hungry executives. The next, his vision blurred, the edges of the world curling like burning paper. His knees buckled, and he crumpled to the polished floor with a low gasp, the room erupting into chaos. An alpha fainting. It was unheard of. Paramedics rushed in within minutes. Questions were thrown at his assistant, his security, anyone who could explain what was happening. But no one had answers. Cairo drifted in and out of consciousness, burning with a fever that shouldn't exist. At the hospital, things only got stranger. The doctor, a beta woman with decades of experience, read through his test results with trembling hands. She looked at Cairo like he had just stepped out of a myth. "There must be a mistake," Cairo said, his voice hoarse, jaw clenched. "Run the test again." "We've already run it 3 times, the doctor replied quietly. "You're pregnant." Cairo's breath left him. "That's not possible. I'm an alpha." The doctor swallowed visibly. "Alpha biology, yes, but there's something odd. Your hormone levels are not entirely alpha, and the fetus, it's viable, strong. It's not an error." Shock burned through him like acid. Cairo wanted to scream. He wanted to tear the IV from his arm and demand the world start making sense again. Instead, he stared at the ceiling in silence, numbness taking root where fear should have bloomed. No one could know, not his assistant, not the media, not his enemies circling like vultures. Not yet. He signed a confidentiality clause and walked out of the hospital against orders, his body stiff with disbelief and denial. He didn't go home. He went straight to Damien. The Voss estate loomed just as it had the first night. Cold, vast, predatory. But now it felt different. Personal. Violating. Damien met him at the entrance like he'd been expecting him. No words, just that cruel little smile pulling at the corner of his mouth. "You drugged me," Cairo said, voice like broken glass. "You knew. You did something to me. This isn't normal." Damien's eyes glittered with something darker than triumph. Obsession. Possession. He stepped forward, slow and unthreatening, like a panther playing with its prey. His voice was soft, twisted with something almost tender. "You thought I didn't know what you are? You think I'd mark you blindly?" Cairo's breath caught. "What do you mean what I am?" But Damien didn't answer. He simply cupped Cairo's jaw gently, reverently, and whispered, "You'll understand soon. Your body already remembers. It's your mind that's in denial." Cairo shoved him away and left. That night, sleep was impossible. He stood in the shower for over an hour, water scalding his skin, trying to scrub away the confusion. But the truth clung to him like the mark on his neck. So he started digging. Into himself. Birth records, medical files, his mother's private clinic logs, hidden documents in the Wynn family vault, He had to pull favors, threaten a few people, lie to even more. Each night, he dove deeper into a truth that twisted like a serpent around his ribs. And then, the first crack. A sealed adoption file buried in legal archives. His birth certificate, forged. His blood type in childhood records didn't match the alpha signature he was tested for at 17. That wasn't just an error. That was a cover-up. Then came the memory, faint, distant, of a strange conversation between his mother and a nurse when he was 10. The warning to never let anyone see the birthmark on his lower back, the one shaped like a crescent moon, dark and curling like a rune. He'd always thought it was meaningless. Now it felt like a brand. The lies, the secrecy, the impossibility of his condition. It was all connected. Something was wrong with him. He was not what he'd always believed. And Damien Voss had known it all along. The fake marriage, the marking, the bond. None of it was random. He wasn't the hunter anymore. He was the hunted. Chapter 3. Blood Eclipse. The old clinic was nestled deep in the northern highlands, long abandoned, shrouded by creeping vines and thyme. The air was thinner here, colder. Every step Cairo took up the cracked stone path felt like walking into the throat of a secret. This was where his mother once worked before she died, before the lies began. Inside, the building creaked like it remembered him. Dust curled in shafts of silver light, and faded patient files crumbled in rusting cabinets. Cairo made his way to the basement records room, guided only by instinct and the map drawn from the corners of half-buried memories. The locked drawer was hidden beneath a false floorboard, a medical file. His name on it, Cairo Wynn, written in his mother's sharp hand. He opened it with shaking fingers. Birth date, January 1st, 3:33 a.m. Event, total lunar eclipse blood moon. The room spun. A handwritten note clipped to the corner, yellowed with time, read, "Born under the blood eclipse. Hide his bloodline, suppress all signs. Never let the council know." He kept reading, each word slicing deeper than the last. His mother, an alpha. His father, an enigma. A name not spoken in decades. A bloodline erased from history. The enigmas weren't just rare. They were hunted, feared, known to awaken strange traits in their mates. They could bear children with alphas, an impossibility for both castes. And a child born of an alpha and enigma? A hybrid, stronger, faster, uncontrollable, a threat to the council's sterile hierarchy. So they cleansed them, all of them. Except one. Cairo. He wasn't just a biological impossibility. He was a secret the world tried to bury. The injections he'd received as a child. The strict heat suppressants. The medications masked as immunity boosters. They weren't for his health. They were designed to numb what he was, to lock away the enigma blood that pulsed silently inside him. Someone had been watching him, guarding him, or waiting. Cairo's knees gave out, and he sat on the floor, heart racing. And then he remembered it, Damien's voice, like a whisper threading through time. "You were born under the blood eclipse. You're sent. I've waited my whole life to find it." The pieces clicked together like a puzzle made of bone and fate. Damien Voss wasn't just a ruthless mafia lord. He was one of them, a descendant of the ancient Enigma line, one of the very few who'd survived the culling. He'd been searching, waiting, hunting, not for power, for him, their marriage, the mark, the bond. It was never just about war or revenge. It was destiny. Cairo's hands curled into fists, the file slipping from his lap. He'd been born under blood. Damien had waited under shadow. And now the clock was ticking, faster than ever. Because the council would never allow a hybrid heir to exist. And someone had already leaked the pregnancy. Chapter 4. No Exit. The private jet waited on the tarmac, its engines purring low like a beast ready to flee. Cairo's breath steamed in the cold night air as he stepped onto the runway, fake passport tucked into his coat, a duffel slung over his shoulder. He clutched his stomach unconsciously, still barely noticeable, but starting to swell. He couldn't stay. Not after everything. Not after Damien. Because no matter how soft Damien's voice had turned, how warm his hands had felt wrapped around his belly, it was all too calculated, too precise. Damien had known what he was from the beginning. That wasn't love, it was possession. Cairo could feel the bond burning under his skin, dragging his heart back toward Damien like a tether. He bit down on the panic. Just a few more steps. Just Alpha Cairo win. The voice came from behind him. Cold. Unfamiliar. Cairo turned slowly. 3 men stepped out of the shadows. Their suits crisp, eyes empty. One held a syringe, the other a blade. Assassins. Council bred. Clean. Efficient. Time slowed as the first lunged. Cairo twisted to dodge, his body moving on instinct. Years of boardroom poise dropped as raw survival took over. He slammed his attacker into the tarmac, but the second came in fast, slicing through his side. He hit the ground hard, blood slick under his palm. Another blow came. Sharp, electric. His ears rang. Everything spun. Then a gunshot. Another, and another. The world stopped. The air reeked of smoke and blood. A warm hand curled around his shoulder, lifting him, shielding him. Cairo. The voice was trembling, shaking. Cairo blinked through the blur. Damien. His tie was gone. His jacket blood-streaked. His gun still smoking, but his eyes were wild with something unfamiliar. Fear. He dropped the gun and pulled Cairo into his arms, whispering fiercely against his temple. You're bleeding. You're bleeding. His voice cracked. Cairo tried to push him away. Don't touch me. But Damien was already carrying him to the car, shouting orders into his phone. Guards, doctors, blood transfusions, lockdown. Back at the Voss estate, no, fortress, Cairo was tucked into silk sheets, surrounded by firelight and shadow. His wounds were bandaged, but his body still ached. And Damien didn't leave his side. Not for an hour. Not for the whole night. It was only the next morning when Cairo tried to leave that he realized the doors were locked, windows sealed, the staff gone, security tripled. Trapped, Damien stood by the fireplace watching him with unreadable eyes. You locked me in, Cairo said. Damien didn't deny it. You lied to me, from the beginning. Silence. Then Damien stepped forward, slow and deliberate, like he was walking on broken glass. You think I'm your prison, he whispered, voice low and dark, but I'm the only thing standing between you and death. He knelt before Cairo, unbuttoning his cuff. A strange mark shimmered on the inside of his wrist, a symbol burned into his skin. This is an ancient oath, Damien said, voice stripped of all his usual arrogance. A blood vow from my ancestors. We don't just protect the hybrids, we serve them. Cairo's breath hitched. You were born of prophecy, Cairo. You're not just important, you're the last of something hunted, feared. Needed. Damien's hands trembled as they touched Cairo's stomach. I took the bond because I had to. But this... His voice softened to something broken. This part, wanting you, loving you, that happened without the oath. Cairo turned away. He didn't believe him. He couldn't. But deep inside, the bond pulsed. And it didn't feel like chains. It felt like safety. Chapter 5. The Air of Eclipse. Time passed like a dream blurred by exhaustion. Cairo sat near the greenhouse windows, hands cradling the curve of his swollen belly, golden light filtering through the glass like a soft lullaby. 8 months. 8 impossible months. From boardrooms to bloodlines. From power suits to protection spells. He still didn't know how it had happened. Not fully. But he'd stopped asking why every morning and started asking what now. Damien was always near, not just present, watching. Every breath, every wince, every craving. He memorized them all. Cairo sometimes woke up to find Damien sitting in the dark beside the bed, eyes sharp, scent burning like smoke and sandalwood. It should have been terrifying, but it wasn't. Because no matter how obsessive Damien was, he was tender. He never let Cairo carry his own weight. He never missed a meal, a scan, a moment. But they both knew the danger hadn't passed, and it didn't. It came at twilight. A flash in the sky like stars falling wrong. The alarms went off at the mansion. Too many, too fast. Council assassins had returned, this time not to threaten, but to end it all. 12 of them, masked, scentless, ancient, sent to finish what they failed decades ago. Cairo stood frozen in the hallway, hand on the wall, his pulse hammering against the life inside him. "Stay back," Damien whispered, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "I'll end this." And he did. The battle was silent, efficient, brutal. When Cairo finally saw Damien again, covered in blood, panting in the foyer, the bodies were gone. No evidence, no survivors, no trace of the council ever existing. But it came at a cost. That night, Cairo screamed. The pain hit like lightning, sharp, rolling, consuming. Blood. Too much of it. Damien tore the estate apart, calling for doctors, midwives, spellcasters, anyone who could help. But Cairo wouldn't let them near. He clung to Damien's hand like a lifeline. "Don't let go." "I won't," Damien rasped, falling to his knees, tears slipping down his face. "I won't, I swear." Then came the burst of light. Cairo's aura flared, golden and ancient, rising like fire from his skin. The walls trembled, the windows glowed. Even Damien, powerful Damien, stumbled back as the light crowned him. The power of his bloodline awakened. Alpha, Enigma, Hybrid. It was beautiful, terrifying. And then, suddenly, it was quiet. A cry broke the silence. High, piercing, alive. The child was born. A small, perfect being, golden-eyed, quiet now, breathing steady. Cairo collapsed back onto the pillows, soaked in sweat and tears. Damien, still kneeling, held the baby like it was something divine. And maybe it was. Maybe they all were. The next morning, the world felt different. There were no more guards, no more shadows at the windows, just sunlight and peace. Cairo lay still, watching the baby sleep in Damien's arms when he finally asked the question he'd buried for too long. "Why me?" Damien looked up slowly. His eyes were softer than Cairo had ever seen, not glowing with rage, but wet with something real. "Love." He took Cairo's hand, kissed the back of it. "I found your scent years ago," Damien whispered, voice trembling. "I've tracked every echo of your existence, not to use you, not to control you, but to protect what was mine before the world took you." Cairo said nothing for a long moment. Then he whispered, "You didn't save me, Damien. You waited for me." Damien only nodded, eyes shining with reverence. The council was gone. The war had ended. And in that sun-drenched nursery, Cairo finally stopped running. He had a family now. He had love. And as Damien leaned in, pressing a kiss to Cairo's temple, holding their child between them, his voice wrapped around him like a vow. "You were never meant to escape me, Cairo. You were made for me." A soft lullaby played in the distance. And everything was whole.